Hello, everybody, and welcome in live to the Texas Longhorns live show at the Voice of College Football. We really appreciate you guys being here. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Gerald Goodrich. We like having you guys in here. Fuel the discussion. Jump in with your comments. We'll go to those if it's, to the point that we're on. And we're just going to jump into this. So, Texas, we're going to recap the game versus UTEP, and it was not a fun game to watch. Straight up honest. It was like, I'm trying to think the last time I felt this way watching a Texas football game, and it was probably Oklahoma State first year with Quinn Ewers. I think that was the last time I'm like, this is just putrid, and I don't really know why I'm subjecting myself to this, but I did. And we're going to talk about that. So I'm going to run through a couple numbers real quick. Arch Manning, I still can't believe this. 11 of 25 for 114 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, and we might as well just jump off on that. Gerald, what did you see in this game? Why was this a result for Arch Manning?
I'm still trying to figure that out. And apparently Steve Sarkisian is as well. If you watched his presser, I honestly feel kind of like gaslit a little bit by I just don't know what he's like. I don't know what he's saying or what's going on or what he's getting at, because, they're saying that he's operating the offense well, but what does that mean? He's not messing up the play calls in the huddle, because he's clearly not, he's bouncing mesh. He's either, he was throwing too long all the time or throwing too short all the time, but it's both. There's a combination. So it's hard to put your finger on what actually is happening. And so I guess it might be, I'm starting to believe it's more mental at this point, where it's just, he's playing too much in his head. He's kind of feeling the moment, feeling the pressure. And so he's kind of pressing too much. I still don't trust, and this is, again, when it comes to injuries, I don't trust Steve Sarkisian. I don't we're 2 years in a row now where Quinn had a more severe injury than they said. So it's hard for me to take that at face value, because there is something wrong with Arch. And if it's not an injury, then he's been overcoached. He's been over-rotated. He's overthinking, which is not great. It's a fixable problem. I'd honestly prefer, though, if it was an injury, because that is an even easier fix, that you go shut him down, go get surgery, and we'll call it for next year. But ultimately, this was the lowest passing output by a quarterback since if you think back to the 2022 Kansas game, Quinn Ewers only threw for 107 yards, but that's because Texas rushed for damn near 400 yards in that game, right? I think they had 300-yard runners in that game. So that's why that you didn't need to pass, because I think he played a quarter and a half and they sat him down. So I just don't know what's wrong. If it's a mental thing, figure it out. We've got to be able to figure it out. And I'm with you, Garrison. Quinn absolutely deserves more love. You're never going to hear me talking shade about Quinn at all, because I think he operated the offense really, really well for Texas, and then he officially, I think, brought Texas back, if we could say that. But ultimately, it's hard for me to diagnose, because I don't think we're getting a straight answer from Sark.
Well, and to that point, you and I had never done that. Well, you've never come on here and been like, Quinn sucks. Da, da, da. Now, did we think we ever reached the potential of his number one recruit? Absolutely not.
No.
But he played to a floor at which we've yet to see here at Texas with Arch Manning. And honestly, before Quinn Ewers, with Casey Thompson and Hudson Card, there was at least a floor there. Whereas it feels like the elevator has completely fallen down to the bottom floor here on this offense. I don't even we do nothing well, guys, and we'll get to the rest, and I'll stay on Arch Manning. I went back and watched Louisiana Monroe game and Mississippi State game to see if my eyes were lying to me from last year to this year. They were not. I do not know what the hell has happened. It made me angry watching it, because his worst throw was an out route to Silas Bolden that he had to dive and get to. And I would take that throw every time over what I have seen from Arch Manning to this point. It has been pathetic. And I did notice one thing that I think they might have changed. And I have to have a QB guru to sit down and actually see the tape. But it seems to me like they've narrowed his stance, which throw that out, because if that is the case, it is not working. He naturally, to me, looked like he was a wide stance guy, and they kind of brought that into where it's more shoulders. He was really wide out, and my eyes could be deceiving me on that. But if that's the case, just tell him, hey, just go back to what you were doing before. Screw everything we told you, because I don't care if it wasn't to your standard or what you wanted it to be. It worked. It was better. Yeah. I don't know what has happened, guys. It really confuses me. There's a bomb he threw to Isaiah Bond in Louisiana Monroe game He's yet to get anywhere close on deep balls like that.
Yeah.
Even the Parker Livingston one that was a good throw, Parker Livingston had to come back to the football and make a play on the football. That was more of, I'm going to give my guy a shot. He has yet to
Yeah.
pinpoint a deep pass yet. He's yet to pinpoint any pass yet. There's no pass I'm looking at that's like, oh, that's a great pass. Everything that he's hit is mostly wide open. He doesn't throw guys open. He's not hitting layups. And that's the thing. Like, I don't need him to even be Quinn, guys. Can he be Shane Buechele? Can he be Shane Buechele? I'm being serious about that. Like, if he is Shane Buechele, this team's a playoff team. It really is.
100%.
Now, do we get to the national championship? Absolutely not. But my goal right now is just to get to the playoffs. That should be the goal from here on out from every Texas fans. I have completely rearranged what I believe this Texas team can be. I mean, I picked Clemson and Texas in the national championship. Laugh at me because that ain't happening. Clemson isn't even going to get to the playoffs, and Texas may not either if they continue to get this performance from Arch Manning.
There are two things that I want to call out that you said. One, kind of tinkering with mechanics. I'm an old head, but like if you go back and read about Jeff Fisher and Vince Young when Vince Young went to the NFL, they completely tried to change his process, and it's why he flamed out. It's why he went kind of off the deep end. It's why he disappeared for a night with chicken wings and a gun, right? Or whatever that story was, because they were not letting him do the things that made him successful. And so I think there is maybe some of that to what's going on with Arch, where I feel like he likes to run. And Sark even kind of mentioned that, like, he's not going to be a run first kind of guy, but ultimately, like, if that's what your quarterback does to get in rhythm, then it's on you as the coach to figure it out. The other thing that I want to call out, and while we talk about how Quinn needs more love, what made Quinn successful in this offense was his ability to throw guys open and throw with anticipation. And we're not seeing that with Arch right now. I could pull up 5, 6, 10, probably a dozen or so clips of Quinn Ewers throwing a guy open, Xavier Worthy running a whip route in the end zone, and Quinn throwing it before he's even into his break, or Quinn throwing it to a guy who's still even with somebody. He kind of puts it out ahead and lets his wide receiver run underneath it. And we're seeing the exact opposite with Arch, where he's squeezing the ball. That interception that he threw in the end zone, he had guys open, held it for too long, then they weren't open, then he forced it into double coverage. It was fourth down, throwing into the end zone, so whatever. But like, if he had thrown that earlier to give his guys a chance to make a play, that's the differentiator. It's like, he's not playing with anticipation, he's overthinking, he's over processing, he's not throwing, he's not playing within the offense. And I wonder what they're seeing in the week and how that's kind of changing or shifting on Saturdays. Because if they're seeing that during the week and they're not correcting it, that's a coaching issue. If they're correcting during the week and he's reverting, then they've got to figure out another way to coach it.
Yeah, and he said today, Arch said that it is a mental thing more than physical. So I do believe it's just mental at this point. Like, I really believe that. I don't think it's physical unless you want to say mechanics are physical, which they are, but they're also mental if they're breaking down in the game only and not during, the day-to-day process. And Sark said today during the press conference, I released a video, guys, you can go check it out. He said he's going to concentrate more on the running game. Now, is he ever going to, like he says, what does he say? He says he's going to focus or that be the main thing? No, but I think he realizes this team's going to have 8 to 10 run plays designed for Arch Manning per game. I think that's going to be part of it. It's not going to be Haynes King where you're running the guy 25 times a game, but 8 to 10, I think you're going to get that. You might get even a little more during Florida, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, those type of teams, because if you don't, you're probably going to lose those games. So that's
I would.
Oh, go ahead.
I would almost love to see something like they're doing, like we saw Colton Nicky do in Kansas, where they had almost like a triple option situation for their quarterback, who he could hand it to the running back, he could pull it and he could run, or he had a passing option. We saw Texas do a little bit of that in the game against UTEP. We actually saw it against Ohio State, but he made the wrong read on that one. That's a whole nother conversation. That's another mental issue. But if that is in line with Sark's offensive philosophy. Sark likes RPO. Sark likes slants. It's like, if you can come up with something that gives Arch the ability to pull the ball and have an option to throw it, I think that fits both what Arch wants to do and what Sark is comfortable calling as an offensive play caller. I think there's a way to marry it. We pay Sark as much as we pay him because Sark is supposed to be this offensive guru. Get in the lab, get a whiteboard, and figure it out. That's what you got to pay raise for, buddy.
Well, there's actually something when we get to how to improve the offense. There's a specific formation I've yet to really see this year where I've seen it last year with Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers. So we'll talk about that when we get there. But let's go to the running game. So James Simon, 17 for 67, Jared Gibson, 18 for 64, and Christian Clark, 7 for 32. I said during the Sark press conference, he talked about the running game, that I think the 4 best running backs on the team are Trey Wisner, CJ Baxter, Christian Clark, and James Simon. I'm being very harsh on Jared Gibson. Like, when games matter, I really do not want to see a lot of him just because I haven't seen enough. And when I've seen it, he fumbles the ball. So those are the 4 guys I want to see from here on out. James Simon, I think, honestly, at this point, probably has the most juice in that room with, like, he's the guy that's capable of breaking off a long run. And guys, this is a crazy freaking stat. We have not had a 20-yard run since Arizona State. We have not had a 20-yard run versus Arizona State. So we have to have the most explosive guys back there. Now, Trey Wisner versus Ohio State was definitely more explosive. It's going to be interesting when he does come back. Hamstring was the injury for CJ Baxter. That is not a good sign. That's a lingering injury. I don't know what grade it is. That's going to be interesting. And that wasn't addressed today as well. He just said he doesn't know. So that I don't know what that means.
Doesn't feel great.
Yeah. Christian Clark, I would like to see more of. Like, he averaged 4.6 yards per carry. He was the most yards per carry, and he got the least amount of carries. So that doesn't make much sense to me. I think he should get a little bit more run. But we have to create some explosive opportunities in the run game, and that starts with the running backs. And then also when we get to – we can marry the offensive line in this conversation as well. Like, we have to experiment there, guys. Zeno Umulazulu played no snaps in this game. I do not know why, because was this a dominant running performance? Absolutely freaking not. So why does Connor Stroh get the benefit of the doubt? I have no idea why. I want to see experimentation. If Cole Hudson can't go this week, I actually think it's cool that we're going to see Connor Robinson, because Connor Robinson, I actually think, does a pretty good job in the run game. And that was going to be something I was going to say. Put him at center and then move Hudson back to guard and put Zena in, because Connor Stroh just hasn't impressed me enough to where he's your left guard. Like, you got to experiment there, in my opinion. What do you think, Gerald?
Yeah, and I want to like backtrack to the running backs for a second. I think the reason why we haven't seen more James Simon is because James Simon is a freshman. And so if you go watch the tape, go rewatch the game, there were a couple of times where he made the wrong key off a block and he kind of went outside when he should have gone inside, and he could have probably busted a bigger run. So I think some of the reason why we haven't seen a ton of James Simon yet is just because he's still learning how to make the reads in this zone scheme and in this counter scheme that Sark is dialing up for Texas. I wonder in the back of my mind if they're just resting Trey Wisner because they know they're going to have to ride him for conference play. That's like in the back of my mind. Like, is Trey Wisner just sitting because they could probably, I mean, they played a terrible game against UTEP and still won by 4 scores? I don't remember what that final score was off the top of my head. But so I wonder if it's like, we know we're going to have to spam Trey when conference play comes out, so we're just going to sit him down. The CJ Baxter injury is concerning. He's going to start getting that injury prone tag. We got a Jared Gibson game without a fumble, right? Like, that's a good thing. He looked solid. I don't know if he's long for the world or for the locker room. I'm assuming if there's going to be some attrition happening, he's probably the likeliest candidate in this room. I really do like what James Simon brings to the table. He's got a good mix of size and speed. But I think the big issue for him is really figuring out, how do I read the blockers? Which butts do I need to move off of? Like, those are the ones, like, that's the difference between a 4-yard gain and a 10-yard gain, or the difference between a tackle for a loss and, staying ahead of the chains, which was an issue for Texas in this game. Average distance to go was like 8.7 or something stupid like that. They got stopped for no gain or a loss, I think, on 6 of their second down attempts. Like, not a great look. So, like, if James Simon is able to figure out, how do I read the right keys? How do I find the right lanes, running counter, running zone? If he can do that, I think he's probably going to be able to add some juice to it moving forward.
I'm kind of in the same mindset of you with Trey Wisner. I really, like, if he played Ohio State, I saw nothing in there. He never limped off the field. He never got hit hard. I really think he was probably
there were no practice reports.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is 100%. You don't feel 100%. You're 95%. So you're going to sit out until we play someone for real. I completely agree with that. But, like, I hope that's the case, because if it's not, it's a lot more is going to fall on Arch Manning's plate. Eyes of Texas, he is not injured. He is not being developed very good, Arch Manning, because our coaches are not qualified. I disagree with that, because he's regressed. Like, last year he was pretty good. Now he's bad. So I don't think this is a developmental problem as much as what did you, other than the mechanics, again, if they tinkered with his mechanics and it's gotten worse, then you need to be going back in there and telling him, forget it, go back to the way it was. And I disagree with that to a certain extent on Sark. If you want to say that about AJ Milwee, fine, because AJ Milwee has proven nothing to me. There's no track record there. So that's fine in my opinion.
Yeah, that was always my curiosity, and I put it out there on Twitter. Like, I don't know what AJ Milwee is doing. I'm not sure. I know he's a big relationship recruiter kind of guy, which, with the Diabelle of it all, I'm curious to see how that situation plays out. But as it stands right now, AJ Milwee is 0 for 2 on quarterback developing, right? Because Quinn Ewers, we know he was injured, but didn't live up to the lofty standards. Arch Manning, he had the best odds to win the Heisman preseason, and he's looked like absolute trash in the first 3 games. So, like, when you got the quarterback coach next to your name and you've got 2 of the previously perfect ranked quarterbacks in your room and neither of them have lived up to the standard, then at some point you do have to start looking in the mirror. So I'm not going to say they're woefully unqualified, because again, Sark has enough skins on the wall that I think we could probably say otherwise. But I do think AJ, again, and it's easy to find a scapegoat, right? It's easy to find somebody to blame, but like, there's a guy with quarterback coach next to his title and the quarterbacks are struggling. So what is the issue there?
Yeah, I think some people are jumping off the deep end a little bit, because I saw a comment on someone else's comment section, basically said Texas needs an offensive line coach, a tight end coach. I'm like, we have those things. We have a really good offensive line coach with Kyle Flood. Jeff Banks has been a really good tight end coach. If you haven't realized, we have had 2 guys drafted in the last 2 drafts pretty highly, in Jatavian Sanders and Gunnar Helm. So I just don't understand that comment, but we'll get back to this. Defense, 2 sacks. Sark did mention this. I didn't have a stopwatch, so I can't check him on this. 1.8 seconds to release for the quarterback. If that is the case, I mean, you're not getting there. So 2 sacks, I'm fine with. And I actually think that will go up in conference play, because other teams are going to feel confident versus Texas and try to take shots. Because they have good players too, and they're going to say, we're not outmatched here. We're actually going to try to test these guys down the field. Where teams like UTEP, Sam Houston State, and San Jose State are realizing, we can't block these guys, so we're going to get the ball rid of super quickly, and they've done that. Tackles for loss, I will say, has to be better, because tackles for loss is in the run game as well. We had 5 in this game. UTEP also had 5. That has got to improve. We got to get in the backfield and create a little bit more havoc that way, but the sack number I'm fine with.
Yeah, and I think it's like a tale of 2 like situations here. I'm really impressed with what the interior defensive line is doing, and I think we need more from the edges. I think the edges haven't done a great job of creating havoc in the backfield, which is weird, because we kind of almost had that flipped going into the preseason where we're like, hey, Texas has the best edge room in the country, and while I think the defensive tackles will be good, I don't know what the floor is. The floor has been very, very high for this defensive tackle room. I think back-to-back weeks a defensive tackle has a sack in the games. It's like, that is a sign of good defense. And I think it's why Leonga Leifau has looked as good as he is, because those guys in the interior are occupying 1, 2, even 3 blockers sometimes. So it lets your athletic linebackers look really, really good. But again, I think you're spot on to something with the edges and the tackles for loss. It is Pete Kwiatkowski's defense thrives when teams are playing behind the chains, right? That's when he gets to do those fun, weird, experimental things that turn into big plays, that turn into interceptions, that turn into pick sixes, that turn into those momentum swinging things. If you can get a team off of schedule, Pete Kwiatkowski is going to dial up something that's going to cause havoc for any level of quarterback, not just the young quarterbacks that Texas is going to see this year. So if Texas is not doing that, it's going to shift and change what PK does. Now, again, the defense, I always call it finding pimples on the prom queen, right? The defense has been the reason why Texas has had any sort of success this year. But I think there are some things that Texas needs to shore up, because we just saw what A&M did at Notre Dame. We've seen what some of these other teams can do. Now, we've also seen DJ Lagway throw 5 picks. So that's another conversation that we'll have in a couple of weeks. But, ultimately, I think you're spot on that we need to see more from the edges as they can bring runners down in the backfield, because that's when this defense really, really can shine.
Yeah, last thing we'll hit on, penalties. 7 penalties again, obviously an improvement from 12, but not good enough. We had a couple block in the backs on big punt returns, and you can't be doing that versus, really good competition, because you might get one really good punt return versus the really good athletic teams like Florida, Oklahoma, Vandy, and so on. And if you ruin that with the block in the back, you're taking points off the board, basically, because if you get a 40-yard return to the other team's 35, 40-yard line, we only have to move the ball 10 yards to kick a field goal. And with that penalty, you wipe stuff like that off the board. So you cannot be doing stuff like that. And again, it's all these penalties for Texas add up to where, they're either taking points off the board or they're setting us back on 3rd and 15 situations. I don't know the last time it's been, 2nd and 1 and we get a 5-yard penalty in 2nd and 6. You can survive those. You can't survive going from 3rd and 10 to 3rd and 15, 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 12, taking points off the board in the red zone when you score a touchdown, preventing points from going on the board from a punt return that goes to the other team's 35. Oh no, it's back at the other 35 because you held back there. Like, we got to stop with these catastrophic penalties. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, and I think when you look, Texas only had that one accepted offensive penalty, which you said you haven't seen one on a second, but they had one. The only false start, the only offensive penalty that was accepted was a 2nd and 6, and they got a 5-yard false start penalty, which put them behind the chains, which again, we've already talked about it. Average 8.7 yards to go on 3rd downs. They only had, I think, 4 or 5 that 3rd down attempts that were shorter than 5 yards. Like, you're not going to be successful, right? That's a recipe for disaster. Texas has struggled on 3rd downs historically, and they're making it worse on themselves by putting themselves in these bad situations. I think the bigger issue for me, Texas gave UTEP 4 free first downs in the second half. They gave them 4 free first downs, unsportsmanlike conduct, a defensive block below the waist, which was weird. I'm not sure what that was. Then the pass interference and a face mask, and those all resulted in free first downs. Didn't cost them as much against UTEP, but against Florida, against Vanderbilt, who just put up a big number, you're going to go to Georgia here in like a month. Like, those teams are going to capitalize on that. And any mistake, any room you give them, they're going to kick the door open. So that to me is a huge concern.
No, 100%. And, versus San Jose State the week before, you said 8.7, it was 6.8. Like, that's not much better. You can't be living in 3rd and 7 plus basically every week. You can't even do that versus bad teams, because right now Texas is 126 in the country. You think that's going to get any better if you're 3rd and 7 plus versus Florida, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, all those teams? Because Florida's offense looks like shit, but their defense looks pretty good. Like, their defense has played pretty well so far. Vanderbilt actually looks for real, like a legit top 25 team. Oklahoma and Texas, in my opinion, have the 2 best defenses in the SEC. So you can't be doing that versus really, really good defensive football teams. So we got to figure that out, and we might as well move over to how to improve the offense now. And this is my number one is no more play action. So this is what I was talking. Pro Football Focus has Arch Manning 38.9 off of play action. That is his grade. That would rank 135th in the country, guys. There's like 150 qualified quarterbacks. So he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the country. If you get rid of play action, just run straight drop back passing, he is second. He's the 2nd highest graded quarterback. So this play action stuff, he's athletic, he's mobile. You would think it's a good thing. He can't do it. He cannot operate that right now. And that's the thing with Steve Sarkisian. I know he has this idea in his mind of what Arch Manning should look like. Now you have actual data that shows you what he is looking like, which means you have to change your approach. Now, this is the thing. Do we think he's experimenting versus bad teams to figure out what he's good and bad at, and then he's just only going to run the good stuff versus good teams? I don't know. I can't answer that question. That's what I'm praying, because if that's the case, I think we're going to be fine. If it's not the case and he's just going to continue, he's going to get good at play action. He's going to get good at play action. We're going to be in a lot of trouble, but that's my number one thing. Stop running play action.
Yeah, and I think, the play action, Sark likes it because it usually opens up stuff down the field. But Arch, and I guess if you follow the trail, the breadcrumbs, right? If Arch sucks at play action, that's all about footwork and timing and thinking, right? You have to make, and so maybe some of the overthinking is Arch having to, I've got to fake here, boot here, look here, Arch seems to be a guy who likes to get in the flow and get going. And when he's in the flow, things go really, really well for him. So I'm definitely down with that. The thing for me, kind of in a similar vein, I don't want to see Arch under center again unless it's like a tush push situation. And even then, the tush push didn't look very good for Texas. So it just doesn't look like he's comfortable there. It doesn't look like he knows and likes operating out of that. He's been kind of in wide open offenses for a very long time. That's just not. And again, it's something that Sark likes to do. It's something that Sark likes to have in there. But I just don't think it's something that Arch is comfortable with. And again, as an offensive coach, Texas hired Sarkisian because he is an offensive guru. If you cannot figure out how to put your quarterback in position to win, it's inexcusable.
100%. And I agree with that, under center. So that's what I was going to say. Marry these two things, and that's the pistol. So I saw the pistol being used actually quite a bit last year. And one, under center, it's harder to see the whole field because you're blocked by your offensive lineman. The pistol alleviates that. It's kind of a middle ground. You get to see a little bit, helps the run game a little bit as well. So I think that is a solution. And he ran it last year. Like when I watched Louisiana Monroe, they actually ran out of the pistol quite a bit. I have yet to see them run out of the pistol at all this year. So I would like to see the pistol being used for Texas.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And especially pistol and 12 personnel. Texas has enough big bodies to block at tight end. I think they played, with 4 tight ends this year so far. So there's opportunities there. I think Sark, like that feels like bread and butter for Sark. When we think about what he's done, 12 personnel out of the pistol, it makes too much sense.
I completely agree. And it's going to be interesting if he does implement that at any point. It's weird because we've gone like early on, we went to, that jumbo 6 offensive line package. We have yet to see that after Sark's like second year here at Tech, third year. And then it just completely gone. He did the pistol last year. And then all of a sudden it was working. Like, I don't know why we went away from it. And that's what's weird about Sark. He goes away from things that work sometimes. And then this one's just obvious. Run arch more. Like he's good at it. He's athletic. He's 6'4", 225 pounds. He likes doing it. That's something he even said he likes doing. Sark said it gets him in rhythm. You saw their most successful drives of the season have been when they utilize his legs. So I think that's something you're going to, again, I want to see like 8 plays. Just you're going to run the football on these 8 plays. If you do that, I'm completely fine. Whatever happens after that. But I think they have to run Arch Manning more.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, I mentioned it in the UTEP breakdown, like roll in some RPOs with where Arch has an option to pull it and run some RPOs, run some zone read stuff. Even if it's just, I love a good zone read in the red zone. I think that's like the perfect red zone play. That's just my own personal bias. I think on top of what you're saying, I think you've got to find ways to get Ryan Niblett more involved. I think he is too dynamic of an athlete for you to just have for returning kicks and punts. He's too dynamic of an athlete. He's too explosive of a player. Texas has struggled with explosive plays this year, and Ryan Niblett is probably one of your 2, maybe 3 most explosive athletes on the roster. Like, find ways to get him involved, whether it's getting him involved in some sort of, the screen game, getting involved in some wide receiver screens, in some running back screens out of the backfield. Find ways to get that cat in space in one-on-one matchups. If you put Ryan Niblett in a one-on-one with a corner or a safety and he gets tackled in the open field, I'll take that 10 times out of 10, because more often than not, he's not going to get tackled. He's going to make a guy miss, and he's going to pop a big one. I feel the same way about getting Ryan Wingo involved. Again, I mentioned it, I think, on the post game. I think back to Ryan Wingo, what he could be, and I think back to the Xavier Worthy first play against Oklahoma, where they get it out to him on a wide receiver screen, somebody gets the perfect block, and X is gone. Right. And I think that's the type of athlete Ryan Wingo can be in this offense if they can get him out in space. Now, we've seen them try to experiment with some of those things on the jet sweeps, and one of them got called back, I think, on DeAndre Moore as well. So, Texas has shot itself in the foot, but ultimately you've got too many athletes to be struggling to have an offense that looks like this. You have to figure out how to get your athletes in space, because they are going to have the athletic advantage in most of the games they're playing this year. I think the ones that we can't count that on are Georgia, A&M, and Florida. Outside of that, I would put Texas athlete to athlete against any other team on the schedule from here on out. And so, like, if you can get those guys in space, let them be playmakers, I think. And again, this is maybe me. Sark has forgotten more about coaching offense than I've ever learned, but like, I feel like it might be overcomplicating it for the level of maturity that this team has. It's a young team. Like, let them get out there and play some ball and have fun.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And yeah, it is super athletic, but it's not athletic compared to what we're used to. Because like we've had 2 wide receivers each draft run under 4.4, like 80 Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, and then you have Matthew Golden and Isaiah Vaughn. Like, we're not that quick on the outside. I think we only have 1 wide receiver that would run that, and that's Ryan Wingo. I don't even think Livingston's running under 4.4 at this point. But yeah, that's the puzzling thing about Sark. He did take Emmett Mosley. We haven't seen him yet, but you had some guys on the open market, and a guy that I've been saying, and he just went off for 200 yards versus Notre Dame, was Mario Craver. I just don't you watched him play versus you, and he did pretty well on a bad Mississippi State team and you just said, no, I have no interest. And I did that same thing with Eric Singleton. Like, his price point was too high. I just think we don't have enough. Like, I agree with you, versus those teams. Those are the only teams that can even compare athlete wise. But if you look back, I don't think there was any team that could compare athlete wise when we had Xavier Worthy and AD Mitchell, when now it's actually close and you can discuss it. Whereas if you get a Mario Craver, you get an Eric Singleton, then I think the discussion isn't being had again. So it's going to be interesting, because you better hope Emmett Mosley plays and hits this year, because if he doesn't, we failed at that position in the portal.
I mean, you mentioned A&M, like, they had wide receiver issues and they went out and spent on not one but two elite wide receivers, and that was the difference in the game for Notre Dame. If they don't have those two dudes, they don't win that game at all, right? So, like, that again, Texas. And I don't blame them for liking what they had, but I think it's wild to me that you didn't come into the year with the proven commodity, and that's the biggest issue for me.
Yeah, 100%. And in the day of transfer portal in your Texas, to me, there's no excuse for that. Just, go and get one other guy in the portal. I wanted two wide receivers. They got one, and we haven't seen the one. And that's the thing too. He said a nagging injury from Stanford. Well, if you knew he had that nagging injury, I wouldn't have wanted him in the first place. So that's another thing we could discuss. We don't have to discuss that right now. We already talked about penalties, so I'll skip over that. But experiment with players. I don't understand, if you're going to, play these teams and treat it as practice, like hopefully we're doing, then experiment with players. Play different offensive linemen. It cannot get worse than UTEP. It really can't. So just try different offensive linemen. Try different combinations. Throw in Khalil Lockett. Throw in Jamie French. Throw in Dalen McCutcheon. He said during his press conference, I don't want to do all three at one time. Why not? What could happen that would be worse than it is right now? I don't see it. So why not throw them out there and see what happens? Again, not every one of these players on your team is going to be an outstanding practice player. You're bound to have 5 to 7 guys on this team that just aren't good in practice that end up being good in the game. So experiment, see who those guys are, and play them more. I agree with you, Gerald. I think Ryan Niblett is the second best athlete on the offensive side of the ball right now, and we just don't use him at all. So use different guys in different positions, see what works.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And especially in these weeks, I think you mentioned it, right? Especially in these weeks, like the three freshmen that you got at wide receiver would walk on to Sam Houston State's campus and be the best athlete on any sport, right? In any sport, they'd walk in and be the best athlete in any of those sports. Like so you can play all three of them because they can just win athlete to athlete. These guys, and again, no shot to the guys at Sam Houston State because they're playing FCS ball, right? They're on scholarship too. But like, there's a difference between the guy that goes to get a scholarship at Sam Houston State and a guy that gets a scholarship at Texas, right? So like, there is just something to be said about putting those guys out there and letting them try to get something. And Sark mentioned it in the presser, like we haven't played well enough. We haven't earned the right to get those guys those developmental reps. But like, why not? Like, you weren't going to lose to San Jose State. You weren't going to lose to UTEP. Like, get some of these guys some in-game reps and see how they show up.
Yeah, you played legitimately an F game versus UTEP on the offensive side of the ball. So you were never going to lose that game. You might as well let the younger guys get some experience because the older guys weren't showing you anything. So, yeah, that's a lame excuse for me. I agree. Sark poured some Kool-Aid today. And listen, you can pour some Kool-Aid after back-to-back playoff performances, and you can pour it for this week and bye week. But if we see this versus Florida and we get beat by like 10-plus points versus Florida or get beat at all, the Kool-Aid pouring is over. You can't be pouring that stuff anymore. Not
at all. Now, the Kool-Aid is officially poisoned at that point.
Yeah, that's Jim Jones Kool-Aid that we're sipping on if he keeps saying that. Yeah, it was crazy, some of the stuff he said today. Guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. And also, guys, if you know anyone that would like to sponsor the Voice of College Football in any way, please hit us up at sponsorships@bocfb.com. Whether you want to get your personal brand or business to the next level, just shoot us an email over that, sponsorships@bocfb.com. We really appreciate that. We have the Win Agency right there, which has partnered with the Michigan Channel 2 years in a row, so they love it. They've run a bunch of promotions and specials as well. I believe someone won either $500 or $1,000 in their March Madness bracket challenge over there at the Voice of College Football Michigan channel. So please check it out. And it's funny, I think someone in the Win Agency actually won it. Like, they signed up and they won. So no one on the Michigan channel actually won, but we love the Win Agency at the Voice of College Football, especially in the Michigan channel. So if you know anyone that would like their business or personal product to the next level, hit us up right there. We really appreciate that, guys.
It could be you.
Again, guys, Yeah, could be you. You could win that $1,000 that they do, and it might be even more. If they get more people involved over there, it could be more money. So please go and check that out, guys. Now let's get to the Sam Houston State game. I can't believe the line here. Listen, I think Sam Houston State, after looking at them and what I knew coming in, was probably the worst team in Division I football. Like, I think they're that bad, guys. So we're gonna have issues if we don't blow this team out. I'm going to go nuclear on the post game. I'm just going to let you know that because this team is 0-3. They are led by the offensive coordinator at Wisconsin, or used to be in Phil Longa, who failed there and fell into this job. 21.6 points per game for them offensively, 39 points per game allowed defensively. Guys, we have to put up 35 plus in this game. I don't even ask for, you don't have to get to 39. Can we get 35 plus versus this team? And this is how I know this team's bad. So they have 3 quarterbacks that have played. Hunter Watson is the guy that seems to get the most snaps. He's a 57.7% completion percentage, but he's their team's leading rusher. Okay. Well, this gets even crazier. Their team's running back, their number 1 running back, Elijah Green, is leading their team in receiving. So you have a quarterback leading the team in rushing, and you have a running back leading the team in receiving. Guys, this is a putrid football team, and Texas should beat the brakes off of them.
And I'm pretty sure that Watson, the leading rusher, is hurt. Like, I'm pretty sure they're on quarterback 3 at this point, based on the research that I did. I think they're on quarterback 3, a guy named Landon Locke, 6 of 10 for 68 yards and a touchdown in his limited appearances. So, like, this is not a very good football team. And part of the issue with Sam Houston State is they were a decent squad last year, went to a bowl game, won 10 games. Their coach got poached. A lot of their talent went with them. It's like, that's part of it. That's why if you go look at like where Temple is right now, Temple's 2-1, doing really well with a bunch of kids that came over when Casey Eckler, whatever, the former Sam Houston State coach is now at Temple and brought a bunch of players with him. And so that's why Temple's doing well. And that's why Sam Houston State is struggling. It's kind of the life of the G5 schools at this point. But yeah, Texas not only should be able to just absolutely shut them down offensively, they're on their 3rd quarterback. They're not a great, very dynamic offense. Phil Longo's offense is not really humming and clicking. And their defense, 39 points a game. They gave up, I want to make sure I get the numbers right, 41 to Western Kentucky, 38 to UNLV, 37 to Hawaii, 37 to Hawaii. Not a great outing. 6 yards per play allowed defensively. If we want Texas to start to get the explosive plays going, this should be the game to do that. This should be a way that they can get it going, because it's just not a very good defense. It's not a very good defense. Texas should be able to find its rhythm here.
Yeah, there's no excuses. Like, if we can't get it going, we're just not that good offense. We're not going to be good offensively. Like, this is a horrendous football team, guys. I'm going to keep pushing that point. And don't let Sark tell you if we don't blow this team out, we'll get into score predictions, but 45-10 or something like that. He can't tell you, oh, well, we did this. No, it was bad. We should kill this team. And that's the thing. We'll just focus on the keys of the game again for Texas. I want to see us get into this thing. I don't even care if we convert the 3rd downs. I want us in manageable 3rd down situations. I want us to live in 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, and less. And then also, Steve Sarkisian, he talked about going for it on 4th down. The reason why I actually like the response that he doesn't use just analytics. It's also gut feeling. So I love that. But listen, you got to realize your kicker hasn't had like very many attempts. I don't want to see his biggest attempt in a game at Florida. I don't want to see his biggest attempt in the Red River rivalry. Like, imagine Mason Shipley at Florida, and it's his 4th attempt here at Texas or 3rd attempt here at Texas, and he's having to kick a 45-yard field goal to go up in the game. Why? Let him have some reps here. Like, your offense needs reps, your defense needs reps, your kicker needs reps too. So if it's 4th and 1 or 2 on their 30-yard line, have him kick a 45, 46-yard field goal. We need that at this point. So that's what I want to see as well. Jared, I'll let you go next.
Yeah, I think I want to see Texas really cause some havoc in the backfield. I think, they're hitting less than 4 yards per rush. I think they're like 3.7 yards per rush. Sam Houston State is. So I think Texas should be able to win at the point of attack. If you're getting, there were a couple of spots where it looked like, UTEP was pushing Texas around a bit. And it was, some of it was later in the game. They're probably feeling tired. You got some 2nd unit guys in there, but Texas should really be able to dominate in the trenches. Texas really should be able to just shut this offense down, period, end of sentence. And I really do think like this is a game where I think, Texas should be able to get some explosive plays. I want to see them experiment with some sideline to sideline stuff and get their offensive skill players in a rhythm, right? This is the last shot you've got to get these guys in a rhythm, in routine. Arch finally found Ryan Wingo at the end of the game against UTEP. So if we can continue to get into rhythm, if you can go into the bye week feeling, I don't even need you to feel like this is a world-beating offense. I should go into the bye week feeling like this offense doesn't suck. Like that's what I need out of them. And I think key to that for Texas is going to be getting your athletes into space and just letting them be athletes. They're better athletes than the guys than Sam Houston State. It's like they should be able to just go out and make some spectacular plays.
And can we give Jack Hendricks the ball? I mean, he's been a focal point in the first couple games, then all of a sudden no receptions. Like, what are we? I don't understand that, because I do think he's probably your second best like true weapon on offense. Like, I think it's Ryan Wingo then him, if we're just going pure talent. So I don't understand that. I don't know what the hell happened to him. He goes from catching 2 to 3 passes for 2 touchdowns to absolutely nothing. That makes no sense to me. And yeah, like you said, them running the football. I mean, if their best runner was their quarterback, and he's probably out. So they should not be able to run the football versus us at all, guys. Like, yeah. And we've been good with that. So I'm not super concerned. But again, when you're playing teams like this, establish the line of scrimmage on offense. We should be running for 6 to 7 yards of clip versus Sam Houston State. It literally should be our running backs are not getting touched for 3 to 4 yards, and then they're getting the extra 3 to 4 yards after that. Like, that's how bad this team is. So if we're not doing that, I mean, that was the difference between so far last year's team and this year's team. Last year's team could run the ball versus bad teams. This year's team has not been able to do that. I will say we ran the ball versus Ohio State, but again, that's 1 week to me. That could be completely different if we play the game in. We could be back down to what we did versus Georgia last year, which is 1.4 yards per carry, and that gets nothing accomplished. So prove to me that has gotten better defensively. I want to see us not get beat on the back end. We've allowed like 2 to 3 attempts per game, basically, of a guy gets behind, and it's Jalen Gilbo every time. Grayson Littleton did happen a couple times, but he cleaned that up last week. Did not happen to him. He actually got an interception. So to me, he kind of learned, and he's allowed an off week once in a while, because guess what? True freshman, fine with that. Malik Muhammad's been perfect. Nothing wrong with him. Jalen Gilbo, for whatever reason, about 2 to 3 times per game is just getting absolutely toasted. He either gets a penalty off of that, or it's a big completion, or the guy drops it, or it's a bad pass. He's gotten bailed out because of the competition we played. I need to see him stop falling for double moves, 1, and then just stop getting beat in general, 2.
Yeah, I think that's a fair expectation. And I think if Jalen Gilbo was getting beat against Sam Houston State, then I think we need to officially consider the Jalen Gilbo experiment over. I really have loved this kid's potential. I thought he was going to be able to step in, and I thought he was like going to be, the Jahdae Barron 2.0 at some point. I thought that highly of him coming out of high school, and he just hasn't really materialized. So I think if he is still getting beat against Sam Houston State, then we need to pull the ripcord and figure out something else. And again, like you mentioned, experimenting on the offensive line, I'd be fine with PK experimenting with different units and different players in the secondary. Maybe you walk Michael Taft down to nickel and have, one of the 5 or 6 safeties you have playing that back spot. So you can have Littleton and Muhammad on the outside, Taft in the inside, whatever it might be. Like, experiment with groupings that allow you to get a dominant unit, because the defense has been really, really good, but asterisk, there have been like 1 or 2 plays that were weird. So I think you can experiment with position, with units, and see if they can get that peak ideal state.
Yeah, that's the only position I'm concerned about, is the other outside cornerback. Like, everything else I'm completely confident in, and that was the thing. Like, experiment with Grayson Littleton, throw him on the outside, bring down Michael Taft, or bring down Jelani McDonald, because you're 100% right. We have the safeties. That's one of the deepest rooms on the team. So yeah, you got to experiment. Cade Phillips out there, if he's healthy. Kobe Black, which we haven't seen much of, which has been kind of weird, because I was kind of impressed with him when he did show out last year. And like, can you not get beat deep? Because I'm fine with giving up catches. That's not the issue. It's giving up explosive plays, because that's how you get beat. If you're having teams string together 10 to 15 play drives, that's not sustainable. When a team has to do that, then they can't beat you. Like, that's what happened when I saw Notre Dame play Ohio State, and they had to go on that like 17 play drive. I was like, oh, they're going to lose. You can't do that every drive. But guess what teams can do? If they can exploit you deep 2 times a game, that eats the easy points, and we have to stop that with Jalen Gilbo. So Sam Houston is plus 40.5. The over-under is 51.5. So that's like 45-6 or something like that score, which is, I know Sam Houston's bad, but it's crazy to have that type of confidence in Texas. Gerald, I'll let you start. We were both on Texas covering last week. That obviously did not happen. What do you think about this week?
Yeah, Sam Houston being on QB3 makes you feel like this game is going to snowball pretty quickly. The only thing that keeps me from saying Texas covers is like, Sark really wants to get some of these younger guys in. Sark really wants to get to that garbage time. So, that usually messes with your over under. Like 40 points is still a lot. Like Texas, it should be a name your number kind of game for Texas. So I think I'll take Texas. I'll take Texas 42-7.
Okay, 42-7. So not a cover, not over, barely.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go somewhere similar. I think I'm going to go 38-7. Same thing as San Jose State. So I agree with you, under, and also Sam Houston plus 40.5. And I would be fine with that. If it's 38-7, I'm completely fine with that. I just want to see this team, in the first half actually control this game, take dominance. They did not do that in, the UTEP game. They didn't do that in the first quarter of the San Jose State game. They did it in the second quarter. But can we go up at halftime 28-0? Like the 28-0 at halftime, I'm completely fine with whatever happens at the end of this game. That showed me, hey, we were able to take dominance in the first half versus a really, really bad opponent. So that's just something we have to see with this team before we go into the bye week and then we go into Florida.
Yeah, I'm with you. It needs to feel comfortable early because it did not against UTEP, which is a dumb thing to have to say.
Yeah. I never thought we were going to lose, but being 7-3 with like 7 seconds left in the second quarter is unacceptable versus UTEP. Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Now, last week we went through 3 games. We're going to do that again. Gerald, you went 1-2, so it's time to redeem yourself. I went 3-0 on my games, but this is the problem with me, guys. I make too many bets, so I broke even last week. If I would have just stuck with those 3, I would have done well. But let's see if we can, turn it around this week. Texas Tech plus 3 versus Utah, over under 58.5. This is an interesting game because it's noon on the West Coast out in Utah, but I was not impressed with Utah last week. I think they were up by they were playing a really bad opponent. I forget who it was, but they were only up 7-0 at halftime. They did win that football game. Gerald, how do you feel about that game? Texas Tech versus Utah.
Utah was my preseason pick to win the Big 12, but I haven't felt validated in that in all of those spots. And as much as it pains me to do this, I think I've got to go Texas Tech in this one. They've just kind of been a buzzsaw. They haven't played anybody yet. So but they've done what you're supposed to do against bad teams is they've absolutely just dominated them, which Texas hasn't done yet. So I think I got to go Texas Tech. I do think at 3, I think is probably the right number there. I think it's probably going to be closer. I think Utah is going to be the best team they played this year, but I think Tech they figured it out on offense for sure.
Well, it's not even the offense. Like Texas Tech has always struggled with defense. They had that figured out. Like their defense is really good this year. And I know they haven't played anyone, but it didn't matter with Texas Tech. Like they'd always give up at least like 20 points to some no-name crappy team. So I'm very impressed with the defense. They got David Bailey. I don't know what he's done out there, but I'm guessing he's played pretty good football because he's a really good football player. I know Texas is interested. So I completely agree with you. I'm on Texas Tech plus 3 there. So we're on the same side there. I think this game up next is super interesting. It's Michigan and Nebraska. Michigan is they're favored 2.5 points on the road versus Nebraska. Over under here is 46.5. So they're thinking a low-scoring game. I'm going to be honest. I took Nebraska to win this game preseason. I'm going to take Nebraska now. It's interesting because Michigan did allow Bryce Underwood to run more versus Central Michigan. They seem not to do that versus Oklahoma for whatever reason. They said they're going to be more aggressive this week. We'll see about that. I think I'm going to take Nebraska at home to cover this and win this football game.
Is Sharon Moore still out this week?
He is. It's Biff Poggi coaching.
Yeah, I think Biff had a different idea on how to run the offense, and I think it showed out really well. I think Bryce it's hard for me to buy into Matt Rule. I think Matt Rule is a bit of a snake oil salesman in some spots, but ultimately I think that I have not seen enough from Michigan for me to feel confident picking them against anybody with a pulse at this point. So I think I've got to go Nebraska in this one as well. I think it's going to be I think I wouldn't be shocked if Poggi let Bryce Underwood ball out again this week. This is the one that I think I'm probably going to be the most wrong on if I'm wrong on any of them.
No, I feel the same way. I think either one of these teams could blow each other out, honestly. And I think either one of these teams, it could be a really close football game. Like, I don't really know what to expect. I think I'm definitely excited to watch it because this is probably the biggest game for Nebraska to prove themselves versus like a decent opponent in a long time where I actually feel like, yeah, they can do it. I haven't felt that way in a long time. So this is, really big and interesting test for Nebraska. Next up, there was a couple games. I thought about going Auburn, Oklahoma here, but I'm going to go with this game. Illinois versus Indiana. Illinois is getting +4 points here going to Indiana, which kind of surprised me, but I actually agree with that. I think Indiana is a better football team than Illinois. I haven't been super impressed overall with Illinois. I think they've kind of skated by. I think they got a lot of turnover luck with Duke in that football game. That's not sustainable, and I think Indiana is going to win this game. I also think Kurt Cignetti's I like Brett Bielema, but I think Kurt Cignetti's a better coach, and you get him at home with quarterback-wise. I think it's pretty even. You get Altmaier and Mendoza. I think those are both solid quarterbacks. So I'm going to take Indiana -4 here to win this football game, obviously.
One, just so we don't have all the same picks, but two, this is like Brett is the kind of guy who gets off on trolling people like Kurt Cignetti. And so I think he's going to have something in the offensive game plan this week to just really riff on him. If there's somebody that's going to get inside your head, Brett Bielema is candidates 1, 2, and 3. And so I want to go with Brett here. I think this is the kind of game where Brett finds a way to win. He's just he is sand in your butt crack at the beach. He is like the splinter you can't find in your hand. Just he likes to be annoying in these kinds of games. And so I think I'm going to take Brett's squad here.
I think they're both kind of like that in the way because Kirk Cignetti too will just blow the shit out of teams. Like Indiana State last week, they were up like 60-0 at halftime, and he just said, "No, keep going." Like he just doesn't give a shit. He just does whatever the hell that he wants. And hey, he's a really good coach because he was really good at James Madison, and you see what Indiana started to become. And guess what, guys? If that team starts actually doing this week, year in and year out, like they have enough money to continue that. They're a rich school. They see the football team's going well, especially if basketball's not. They're just like, you know what, move the money over to football. So this is sustainable if they can start winning games like this year in and year out.
Yeah, again, Google him. He's been good everywhere he's been.
Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. We really appreciate it. Again, you'll see us next week, Monday, and you'll see us late night versus Sam Houston because the game's 8 Eastern time, 7 Central, which, hey, the old 11:30 post-game show of Sam Houston State will be here for it.
Hopefully we can go live in the third quarter because it's that underhand.
Yeah, hopefully, Mike. If it's not, we'll have issues with that. But again, guys, please hit that like button, subscribe. Give me a follow right there on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it right there. This is Gerald's X, Twitter, Blue Sky as well as his Longhorn pod. So please check that out. Just like the Voice of College Football, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you can find your podcast. We really appreciate it. And again, guys, we really appreciate you guys being here. And as always, hook 'em.
Hook 'em.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.